when I saw this total at 53.5, my eyes got as big as saucers. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Sunbelt came out and said probably shouldn't count it, but guess what? They don't ask how, they ask how many. They want to know.
I'm just interested in a Dabo team that I think there's going to be some locker room issues if they don't get things turned around.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast.
All right, here we go.
Welcome back to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the Group of Five Deep Dive. I'm your host, Mike Calabrese, joined by my co-host, Mike Iannello. Week one in the books. We had some winners, we had some losers, but we paired it together quite nicely for our Underdog Moneyline Parlay, getting off on the right foot this season with UNLV and your spicier pick. Let's remind the audience who you went with there to get the ball rolling for this episode.
Yeah, the North Texas Mean Green, the Morris show. Chandler Morris absolutely lit up the South Alabama defense. I think he had 5 total touchdowns. So yeah, that was a fun one. That was a great way to start the year with the two of us coming through like that.
Now let's keep the good times rolling right into the G5 High Five for week number 2. Looking back on the week that was, obviously Ashton Jeanty just went berserk. He scored 6 touchdowns. He single-handedly pulled Boise past Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern made it close, backdoor cover late, but clearly his just god level. He's like Tecmo Bowl Bo Jackson at this point. Like he needs to run right through the back of the end zone into the arms of an agent and just get ready for the NFL draft. But luckily, I don't think he wants to do that. He clearly didn't transfer. He could have got a bag this past offseason. He wants to drag them all the way to the college football playoff. What did you think of Jeanty's performance? And were you tempted just to take him as the chalk for the G5 hero of the week?
Yeah, I texted you ahead of time and said we had to mention Jeanty, but I feel like he was like a too obvious version. The point of this segment is to shine light on everyone. Everyone on national TV is talking about, Travis Hunters, and we try to give light to the little guys who have big games. But Jeanty's getting national. Yeah, Diego could have won it, an honorary member. But yeah, Jeanty's getting national attention. So we obviously had to mention him, but we feel like he's getting enough shine. So, we want to shine some light on some other people. So I'm actually going to do that with a whole team. I'm going to just give my G5 Hero of the Week to the entire Central Michigan team. You want to know why, Breeze? This was one of my favorite stat lines to look for. They had 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, a kick return touchdown, a punt return touchdown, and a pick 6. Full team effort, all 3 phases, 66-10 win over Central Connecticut. Fire up chips. The whole squad is celebrating. All 3 units. I just thought that was such a fun little, they scored every way you could. Awesome.
I love that. I think that's a good pick. You're, the head coach who wants to make sure that he's getting the love from the entire team. So you're like, everybody circle up. You're all getting game balls. Just come out. The equipment managers,
the DC, the special teams coordinator. Everyone's drinking tonight.
For my G5 Hero of the Week, I'm going to go with a Power 4 guy who dropped down, a former first-team All-SEC defender at Arkansas. He spent some time at Texas. He transfers into UNLV. Jalen Catalon is going to anchor this running Rebels secondary, and he looked the part in game 1. Not 1, but 2 picks, and one of the absolute best pick 6s you will see this entire season. He deflected it to himself and took it to the house. I believe it was 36 yards out. They dominated Houston, and this has been the missing component for so many of these G5 teams. They're good on offense. I mean, I've been banging the drum for Sluka. That's not going to stop. The go-go offense looked fun. Misdirection. Sluka you're going to have to strap in for the Sluka experience because he made an outrageous throw on the run into the end zone, and he also made an outrageously bad interception in the end zone. You're going to get some good and bad with him, but he looks the part to run the go-go offense. Defensively last year, they got betrayed in all the big games. They're still giving up points in that Mountain West title game to Boise State, but not this year, not on Catalan's watch. They almost pitched a shutout against Houston on the road. So UNLV's for real. He's my G5 Hero of the Week. What do you think about that pick?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it cashed our parlay. I almost did it with Chandler Morris as mine, so I'm glad you mentioned him at the top with the money line underdog parlay. Yeah, I'll give you credit. You have been very good at nailing these FCS transfer come ups, and it looks like Sluka's the next in line. Yeah, he looked awesome, and and then obviously Catalan. Yeah, he was tremendous for them.
All right, this week I'm going to do a little bit more of the heavy lifting. I'm going to do 3 of the 5 in the G5 High Five, and I'm going to get things started here with my best bet for week 2. You already mentioned that North Texas South Alabama game, which is why when I saw this total at 53.5, my eyes got as big as saucers. I was like, you got to be kidding me that this number, South Alabama against Ohio, is sitting in the mid 50s. I would play it all the way up to 57 going over the total here. Listen, the South Alabama game, the opener, it featured 90 points and over 1,100 total yards of offense. It could have been even crazier, by the way, had it not been for an empty drive at the end for the Jags and then UNT kneeling the clock out with about 2 minutes left. The secondary was supposed to be halfway decent, in this Major Applewhite coming in, running the show. Defense had so much to replace. Kane Womack, the head coach, leaving, the defensive mastermind. But at least the secondary had some known pieces, and they were going to be fine. Not fine at all. They got 415 through the air, 3 TDs. Pass rush was nowhere to be found. 0 sacks on 40-plus dropbacks for Chandler Morris in that game. So I think there's a chance that they can give up, let's call it 30, 40 points to Ohio in this game. And then Gio Lopez. He was the butt of the joke in the offseason because he had a huge bowl game, and then he goes 0 for 13 in the spring game. Well, he looks like the bowl version. 494 total yards, 4 total touchdowns. He smashed the school record for total yards by 62. Total yards by a quarterback blowing past that number is big boy work there. Ohio, meanwhile, in their opener, featured 60 points, over 900 yards of total offense against Syracuse. They made Kyle McCord look like the transfer get of the century. I know that Fran Brown, the Syracuse head coach, agrees with them. He's trying to give bottles of champagne to Ryan Day for how well McCord played. But I think a lot of that had to do with the Ohio defense that's kind of in shambles. The good news for this total, though, is they have an offensive heartbeat. Anthony Tyus ends up leapfrogging what a lot of people thought it was going to be Ricky Hunt Jr.'s job. Well, he comes in, no problem, goes for over 200 yards and 2 scores against a Power 4 team on the road. I think he's going to run through this tissue paper defense for South Alabama. Perfect weather on tap here in Athens. It looks like it's going to be 75, sunny, low wind situation. And the final piece here, tempo. South Alabama ran 84 plays on Saturday. Only Georgia Southern ran more plays in week 1 in the entire country. And Ohio, usually a bit more conservative. You think back to the Solich days. They want to play defense. They want to play ball control. They want to kind of have that ugly muck it up Mac mentality. They still ran 73 plays, which is the 21st quickest tempo in week 1. So I am very confused by this total. Give me the over. I'm going to probably play it all the way up to 57 and a half.
Yeah, Gio Lopez is going to be a fun QB to watch. He's got a little gunslinger in him, like you said. Like 430 yards, three touchdowns. He probably should have had 3 picks as well. He was a little erratic. Hey, don't be surprised if he throws a pick 6 in this one. So, yeah, I like it. You're going to get him. He's one of those quarterbacks that seems like that he's either going to light it up or have it going the other way. So, I like it. Low total. So, for me, I'm interested in how you looked at this. I kind of view week 2 as it's a lot of trying to figure out what to take from week 1. Is it a throw out the box score? Was an overreaction to a bad game? Or do you learn from it? And you'll see with my theme through my picks, some I'm kind of ignoring week 1 and some I'm taking it. One I'm ignoring is give me Arkansas State -7 against Tulsa. I'm not going to overreact too much to week 1. Arkansas State needed let's call it a miracle, touchdown to beat Central Arkansas. The Sun Belt came out and said probably shouldn't count it, but guess what? They don't ask how, they ask how many. They're 1-0. I was high on this team coming in. I'm high on this team now. And you watch that, get that game. Jalen ran through for over 300 yards. He had 50 yards and a score on the ground. He kind of did what we expected from him.
Corey Rucker is back, baby. That's the headline.
And Courtney Jackson played great. Their 2 receivers are studs. The pass defense was fine. They just got shredded on the ground. But like a large chunk of that came on an 81-yard touchdown run. Like they kind of let up a few weird, tricky plays. And Central Arkansas is also a top 10 FCS team. So like if you don't watch FCS, it's kind of hard to differentiate the teams. That's a good team. And they managed to, quote unquote, beat them. And I'm not saying this Arkansas State defense is good, but Central Arkansas did only have a 37% success rate in the game. They just had 7 explosive plays. So it's like, you can't give up big plays. And when they were on third down, Arkansas State actually played really well on third down. They really shut them down. And then you look at this Tulsa team, and Tulsa was 91st in explosiveness last year. They're a team I don't think is very good. They're a team I don't think can pick up big plays. Kirk Francis started at QB week 1, although both Cardell Williams and Cooper Legat played. They're kind of, I don't know what they're doing there. It seems like Francis is pulling away. I don't know why the other 2 are even playing. Anthony Watkins is a fine running back, but he had just 20 carries of 10-plus yards all last season on almost 200 carries. So if that's Arkansas State's biggest weakness, he's not exactly a home run burner threat. And similar to Arkansas State, the Golden Hurricane defense is horrific. They ranked 115th in success rate, 116th themselves at preventing big plays. So this is going to be a game with explosiveness. They struggle to stop the pass and the run. And so for all the flaws Arkansas State has, Tulsa's worse at those things. And Tulsa doesn't have the explosiveness that Arkansas State does. You mentioned Rucker, you mentioned Jackson, Jalen Rayner, Cross at running back. Like, this is a team. Arkansas State was 18th in explosiveness last year. This is a team that can pick up big plays. This is a team that will pick up big plays against Tulsa. And I don't think the Golden Hurricane can match that. So I'm not overreacting to week one. Coming into this year, I thought Arkansas State was a middle of the pack G5 team, and Tulsa is a bottom 10 team in the country. So give me Arkansas State here, laying a touchdown at home. I think too, like, a lot's going to be said that they didn't deserve to win week one. And I think that's a motivating factor. Hey, let's leave no doubt. Let's come here and kick the shit out of Tulsa. So give me the Red Wolves here, laying the touchdown.
I would go even further with your assessment. Arkansas State is exactly who we thought they were on both sides of the ball. Their offense is still super dynamic. I trust them. Their defense is going to give up explosive plays, but I think it's more like a letter grade, sliding scale, where it's like if Tulsa is a C- in explosiveness, they'll be a B- in this game. They'll get theirs. They'll get 4 or 5 big plays. But luckily for Arkansas State, it's not make it, take it. So, it's not going to be a situation where they can't get off the field with their defense. Every other possession, they're going to have a chance to score. And I think that puts the pressure squarely on a Tulsa team that doesn't have as many playmakers. So really, all you need are 4 empty possessions, either turnovers or punts, or you get a 4th down stop, something wacky happens. I'm kind of with you on this one. I think really it's kind of a gift, the box score and how close it was against an FCS team. I think there's going to be a slight overreaction in the market. We now turn to the G5 High Five. For those tuning in for the first time, what we do is we package out 5 picks. You can put it together in a round robin, in a parlay, any way, shape, or form you want to put these picks together. Maybe just pick your top 2, parlay those together. We want to go fast through this. This is our little hurry up tempo drill. So we're going to get it started with a team that got a lot of love from Colin and Stuck on the main show. Talked about it in the offseason. This was a team that was a quarterback away last year, and that's Sam Houston. And I got to say, I appreciate the hat tip off the top where I usually hit those JUCO kids, those FCS kids coming up. I was not prepared for the Hunter Watson experience. And Casey Keeler, I respect you for keeping it under your hat. Everyone was in the dark. Everyone assumed that it was going to be someone other than Hunter Watson in the spot. But the former JUCO second-team All-American, he won the JUCO National Championship last year. He seems like the perfect guy to run this offense. I watched the full game film on 2x speed to go through every single snap. 229 yards through the air, 2 TDs, 57 yards on the ground. He had a lot more rushing yards, but he was sacked 7 times, which is an issue with them moving forward, something to keep an eye on. But he absolutely pumps life into this offense that was just, they had a weight wrapped around their waist, and they were throwing the ocean last year because their quarterback play was horrific. What we know is that with competent quarterback play, he can get it to his receivers on the perimeter. Adeye, Noah Smith, and the big-bodied Quavez Humphreys, all these guys can play. Their matchup issues, even when they move up to play against a Power 4 opponent, as they are here, going to the bounce house, catching 21 points. I love it if you can get the hook. It opened at 24. It immediately got bet down. You're going to want to grab it above that 3 touchdown threshold, but if you can get it, I really like it here because Sam Houston was feisty on defense too. They're flying around the ball. 8 tackles for loss in their opening upset of Rice. They also get a pick 6. They only give up 47 yards on the ground. They put that whole Owls offense in a box, including Dean Connors, which was impressive because they're up against a UCF team that we know what they want to do. They want to run, they want to run, they want to run. KJ Jefferson looked really rusty in the first half of that game from a passing perspective. He finishes 7 for 14 in that game against New Hampshire, and he had one of the lowest combined QBR and PFF scores in the entire country among Power 4 quarterbacks. So not a great start for him. Now, RJ Harvey, Penny Boone, they're going to get theirs in this game. They're absolutely going to. But I think there's a little bit of a wrinkle here beneath the surface that we need to talk about. Skylar Cassidy, one of the youngest defensive coordinators in the entire country, where did he get his coaching start? At Auburn, under Gus Malzahn. He sat in those meetings. He knows the philosophy. He knows the kind of game planning that goes into, what at that time it was Auburn, now it's UCF. It's the same offense. And when I look at Malzahn and I look at UCF, I love to target them when it's closer to a coin flip where they're catching points or they're a home dog. Those are the spots to play the Golden Knights, because Malzahn as a double-digit home favorite against FBS teams at UCF, just 3-6 against the spread. So I'm going to go ahead and take the points. UCF has a look ahead next week. Conference play starts in the Big 12 against TCU. I think that's where their focus is going to be. He's saying all the right things in the post-game press conference about how much he respects Keeler, all the national championship appearances at the FCS level, blah, blah, blah. His kids are going to see a team that, really struggled to get off the mat last year, beat a Rice team that they probably don't respect. I'm going to go ahead and take the points. What are your thoughts on the Bearcats? Hashtag eat 'em up cats.
Yeah, you mentioned the quarterback thing. That's kind of the fun part about week one is turning on the TV and be like, who the hell is that kid? Like I had Jace Bauer in my notes. I don't think we mentioned anyone but Bauer, the Central Michigan transfer. And then all of a sudden it's like, who? I love the nugget about the defensive coordinator aspect, because then you also have the kind of like, all right, if they're up 21 late, does he want to embarrass, a guy who worked under him and run it up on, a new defensive coordinator that I'm sure he respects and wants to see succeed, like you said, with the look ahead spot too. And, they mentioned the running backs, like them having success on the ground is a good thing. Like both teams just run the ball all game. The clock's going to run, and it's hard to cover 3 touchdowns when the clock's running the whole game. So yeah, I like it. I have a pick I'm very, very curious to see your reaction to and what you think of it. And this is one where I am going to put a lot of weight into what I saw week one. Give me San Jose State plus 6.5 against the Air Force. I was really impressed with the Spartans in their opener. We had a lot of questions coming into the year of what this team would look like under Ken Niumatalolo, not running the triple anymore. And they smacked Sacramento State 42-24. And again, Sacramento State's a top 10 FCS team. This is a very good program. And the Spartans handled them with ease. New quarterback, Emmett Brown, threw for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Floyd Chalk had 2 rushing scores. Nick Nash dominated, 10 catches, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. He threw a touchdown. Former quarterback, I believe at Arkansas, right? Former quarterback. Justin Lockhart is back after missing all of last season with an injury. He was one of their best receivers 2 years ago. And, your boy Craig Stutzman, the new OC, I was really impressed. I thought the offense looked awesome. Defense allowed just 4.3 yards per play. We saw how good they got down the stretch last season. So seeing them come out with a good performance was a good sign to see that keep coming. And I don't think Air Force looked good at all. And this is a team that I personally was down on coming into the year. I said I liked their under on the Mountain West preseason pods. And yeah, they beat Merrimack, but they managed just 237 total yards. And I get it. They run the ball. They had 166 rushing yards on 55 carries, 3 yards a pop. That is not good. The defense, sure, they were fine against Merrimack, but they're replacing all their best players. We were talking about this. They returned just 3 starters on defense. The offense returns just 2, and they're both receivers. They have a new quarterback, a new offensive line, all new running backs, and nothing worked. They did not run the ball at all. I actually really consider this for my money line pick. I think San Jose State's a better team. I think they win the game. So, again, wait. Maybe Air Force takes some love. Do you get the 7? I would wait for the 7 because I don't think you need the 6.5. But I'll take them. But see if you get the 7. If not, 6.5. I think Air Force wins. Or I think San Jose State wins. So, give me the Spartans here. I was really impressed with what I saw from that offense.
I'm surprised in that thorough breakdown. How many times has Coach Ken gone against Air Force? Like that kind of muscle memory and what he can do from an X's and O's perspective, like he can get them lined up.
I'm so embarrassed to admit this. I did not even think of that.
I mean, straight up against Calhoun, like he probably has 15 career games. This is not one of those difficult to prepare for moments playing against the Service Academy.
I was so focused on Stutzman and the new offense that at no point in my brain was I like, wait, this dude knows how to stop the triple pretty well. I mean, all right, change my pick. Take Air Force money line, or take San Jose State money line. Lock that in.
One of, at least in my opinion, most impressive losing effort performances from week one, Western Michigan. They were leading in the fourth quarter at Camp Randall. They just came off, and we talk about this, and you kind of see it on social media as well. Even a super casual can watch a quarter or two of a game and go, man, that team's really well coached. That's what Western Michigan put on tape. They were really well coached. They were aggressive when they needed to be aggressive, and they took the air out of the ball when they needed to as well. When you look at it, they had a 16-play touchdown drive that ate up 8 minutes and 40 seconds. And then right off of that, they had a 9-play drive that ended in a missed field goal in the third quarter, but it shrunk the game way, way down. Lance Taylor was, in my opinion, really proved himself as someone who is a program builder. Last year, they took their lumps. They had issues. Now they have a quarterback in Hayden Wolf, who I don't love, but from a game manager perspective, I trust him enough not to absolutely crap his britches and turn the ball over 5 times.
Real quick, while you're mentioning Lance Taylor, I mean, putting his nuts on the table with that fake field goal was awesome. That was just perfect coaching. Continue. I just wanted to mention that part.
No, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, at no point were they at any risk of not covering the 24-point spread. So seeing 38.5 against Ohio State, 2 things went through my mind. That seems like it's a little bit harsh on the second straight MAC team that the Buckeyes are facing after not covering last week. And then when I go back through, Ohio State as a 35-point favorite or higher under Ryan Day dating back to 2019, 2-6 against the spread. He is not a slit their throats, let's score 77 points. I need to, pull, I know this is kind of a cheap shot, a James Franklin and cover as a huge favorite, for the alumni. That's not in his MO. And what I think we know for a fact is after the first week with Chip Kelly calling the plays, we saw a little bit of Devin Brown. I think we're going to see more of Devin Brown to make sure that they have reps there. They went all the way down to their third team running back, James People. They were able to feed him in that game. And what's also interesting, the first game between Ohio State and Akron, 24 total drives. You look at Wisconsin, Western Michigan, 16 total drives. So I think the formula is already there to shrink the game down, play more conservatively. Western Michigan has the bodies up front to run the ball. I know that Wisconsin's defense is not on the same plane as Ohio State. Ohio State arguably has the best defense in the entire country. But I don't have this fear that they're going to be put in a box and score single digits. If they can get to 10 or 14 in this game, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Ohio State to go north of 50 to be able to cover a number that I don't think they're motivated to cover. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Broncos. I took them last week in that Friday night game, so I'm just going to ride with them. And like I said, I believe in coaches, and Taylor has my attention, so I'm going to ride him as long as I can.
Yeah, like obviously I was on with you last week. I think this is one where you're certainly not going to feel great about it until kickoff, but then you just have to sweat the whole game. And I agree with you. You just have to hope they take the foot off the gas. And I agree with you. I think they will. I'm going to go with a slightly different direction with my next pick because I'm going to do kind of the opposite, and I'm going to take a Power 4 team to blow out a G5 team, which we hate doing on this show. I think Oregon waxes Boise State. I'll lay the 18.
Is it because Boise State's defense is absolute trash, and apparently
garbage?
None of their changes in the defensive coaching, side of the ball made any difference, because that was unbelievable that they wilted and did not cover with an all-timer performance from Genty.
Yeah, this line opened north of 3 touchdowns and was bet down. And I think that's just, Oregon was on upset alert against Idaho. And I think that's a good wake-up call for them, that maybe there was a little too much rat poison in the offseason. That also was maybe the weirdest box score of all time. Like, when you really dig through that game, you're like, okay, how did Oregon not score 70? Oregon outgained them 487 to 217. They averaged 5.6 yards per play. They had 31 first downs compared to 10. Dillon Gabriel was 41 of 49, 380 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did whatever he wanted. And like you said, they're going to shred this Boise State defense. It is very clear this team is still a mess. Genty single-handedly got them the win, but this defense made J.C. French look like Joe Montana. I mean, the Eagles themselves had 4 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Georgia Southern, they were up late in the third quarter. Like, this was a very competitive game against a Georgia Southern team that I don't think either one of us are all that high on. And look, I don't expect Genty to be able to score 6 touchdowns against this Oregon defense. I love him. I'm not going to say a bad thing. He'll probably have 3, but if Georgia Southern could put up 45, what the hell is Oregon going to score? I think they put a 50 burger up with ease. And after a somewhat slow week 1, I expect they'll want to, have a better performance here. And, we talked about the adjusting to week 1. If I was a power ratings guy, which I'm not, I don't know if you agree with me, I would not have downgraded Oregon at all from their first week 1 game. I'm downgrading Boise State significantly. We talked about Maddox Matson. He's not a game changer for me. He had multiple turnover-worthy plays in that one as well. He did not look anything special. Jenny's going to have to win the game for him by himself. And the defense is way worse than I thought it was going to be. It's very clear they did not improve at all. So I'm downgrading Boise pretty much, and I'm not really touching Oregon. I think they come out here and make a statement. I like, team total. I like Oregon with the points. I think they smoke them, so I'll lay the 18.5. I would play that up to 21.
Do you think a same game parlay with the over is the way to go? That's somewhere I'm leaning.
I'd probably just stick with a team total if you can. Just hope they just kick the doors off them. But yeah, I like. What's the total? Like 50 something and change. I think Oregon scored north of 50 themselves. So
I believe it's at 60 and a half.
Yeah, so you need 10 from Boise. Yeah, I like that. I mean,
Yeah.
Genty's going to, they're not going to shut Genty down. He's going to have, probably $110 and 2 touchdowns. But, all right, then what does Oregon need to cover this number? 48? I think they do that with these.
To close out the G5 high five, going to Death Valley, App State catching 17 against the Tigers. Give me the Mountaineers. This is a lot of points for an offense that continues to struggle. And talking about the Clemson offense, they cannot create the big play through the air. So to give away 17 points to a motivated Sun Belt team that has played a lot of Power 4 competition in the last 5 years and really given some teams problems. Yes, Phil Maffa, when we talk about Oregon running through that Boise defense, Phil Maffa is going to dominate the ground in this game. The Mountaineers finished 113th against the run last year. They added just one player in the front 7 through the transfer portal. Shocking. They gave up 183 yards in game 1 to East Tennessee State on the ground. So I think Maffa is going to eat in this game, go for over 2 bills. But the thing of it is, if that means 8 and 9 play drives, ends in touchdowns, that's great for Clemson to feel good about themselves. But I do think it gives App State a chance to at least play bend but don't break. When you're trying to cover these big numbers, it's nice when you have some dominant playmakers that can score instantly on the perimeter. And Clemson just doesn't have it. And I think there's a confidence issue with Klubnik. I think there's real questions about this play calling from Garrett Riley. So I also think, where's Clemson's head right now? They just got dog walked by Georgia. They showed no improvement in game 1, as I mentioned, on the offensive side of the ball. And their pass defense was not so good against Carson Beck. He finished with a QBR of 91.7, took just 1 sack, threw for 278 yards, looked fully in command of that game. Now here comes Joey Aguilar, who accounted for 3 or more touchdowns in 8 of his last 11 games. Once he got going last year, he took off, and he carried it over to game 1 of this season. Now, since 2020, Clemson has been favored by 17 or more 14 times in Death Valley. They're against the spread record 3-11. So I think that also speaks. There's just some coaches that like to run it up, feel good about themselves, getting huge statement wins where they win by 40 points against the Little Sisters of the Poor. App State is not that to begin with, but on top of it, I'm just interested in a Dabo team that I think there's going to be some locker room issues if they don't get things turned around. I know that Florida State is, taking up all the oxygen and all the jokes and all the memes. And is that guy going to eat dog shit or not? I don't know. But Clemson should also be feeling real bad coming off of week 1. Finally, since 2020, Sean Clark as a road dog, 6-2 against the spread. That's top in the Sun Belt and tied for 7th best in America in terms of win percentage, catching points on the road. So I'm going to go ahead with the Nears here. I like them. I think they are a program that is ascending. I think last year was a bit of a rebuild. They're going to be in the mix to win the Sun Belt this year. So 17, I think, is just too many.
Yeah, I like it. I'm glad after I shit all over Boise that your 2 picks here are defending our G5 brethren against the big dogs. I'll even cheat here and I'll jump to best of the rest here. I also like Northern Illinois catching north of 4 touchdowns against Notre Dame. Riley Leonard is a quarterback that takes 700 hits a game. That dude is limping from the first snap on. He's going to be out of this game by halftime. There's no reason to run it up. Notre Dame just needs to win their 11 games. They're in the playoffs. They got Purdue next week. That's an in-state rivalry. Riley Leonard's not playing a snap the second half. I'll take 29.5 with the Huskies as well.
Stop what you're doing right now and subscribe to the newest college sports YouTube channel.
College football is around the corner, and the new BBOC channel is your destination for betting on college sports.
Interviews with former college athletes and other topics such as College Football 25.
Subscribe now and get in on the action.
All right, for our G5 Underdog Parlay, hit it last week, which was a great way to start the season. Let's keep in the same order. I believe you went first last time. Is that correct?
Yep.
Let's keep it going. Lead us off.
All right, Calabrese earmuffs. I'm going Old Dominion plus 120. Look, let's be honest. Old Dominion should have beaten South Carolina. I know some dummy laid the points with the Gamecocks, but Monarchs outplayed them. The Monarchs outgained them.
I believe I get a mulligan on that because there was a lightning delay. And there wasn't even lightning in the area. I'm sure South Carolina would have played better. Although the last play before the lightning delay, Lenora Sellers made his play of the game where he tackled his own running back on what should have been a long rushing touchdown. I don't know if you saw that. That guy, I've never seen a running back look like he wanted to fight his entire team more than McDowell did in that moment. So, yeah, South Carolina is a stay away for me for the rest of the season.
Horrific.
We'll continue.
The Monarchs outplayed them. They outgained them. And then 4 turnovers were the difference. Old Dominion fumbled twice inside their own 10-yard line, giving South Carolina their only 2 touchdowns. The Gamecocks' 2 touchdown drives were 3 yards and 6 yards. Other than that, the Monarchs defense held South Carolina to 114 yards passing, 3.1 yards per carry on the ground. They had 4 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. Sure, Grant Wilson threw 2 picks. Well, East Carolina quarterback Jake Garcia threw 3, so joke's on him. And ECU is just a team where I think, their 6.5 win total, we talked about it. It's because their schedule is a clown show. But this was still a 2-win football team last year. And they returned just 4 starters on defense, which was their strength. Their leading receiver, Chase Sowell, is hurt. He didn't even play week 1. That's a big loss. And, look, I know we joke about my Old Dominion bias and my Penn State love. But that's mostly in like preseason, season-long talks. I like to root for them. But if you look back in 4 years between, Akron, Marshall, and Old Dominion, you could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've like actually given them out as a pick on the show. Like I'd never really give them out as bets. I choose not to root against them per se. But I think Old Dominion's just as good here, if not slightly better. They're at home. And for the record, just so not everyone doesn't say, oh, Penn State bias, Ianello, Colin Wilson makes Old Dominion a 2-point favorite on a neutral field, according to his power ratings. And now they're catching 2.5 points at home. So I expect a good bounce back game from Wilson here, not as much whoopsie daisy. And I really, really liked what I saw from this Monarchs defense. So give me Old Dominion plus 120.
Hashtag not so much whoopsie daisy. All right, I'm going to go from a team that you love to a team that I gave plenty of love to in the offseason. And that's the Army. Going to go with the whole United States Army here, traveling down to Boca Raton to play FAU. They're at, let me see the latest number, plus 145 on the money line. Let's go through it, line by line here. The Owls had an average run defense.
You only need one line. Cam Fancher is ass.
Don't you steal my thunder. This is my part of the money line underdog parlay. All right. The Owls had an average run defense by G5 standards last year. They gave up just a hair under 150 per game. They gave up 179 in the opener against Michigan State, but they did a really nice job limiting explosive. They gave just 1 run over 10 yards up in that game to Sparty. But the reason why I love this play, as you've already mentioned, is Army is going to eat up Cam Fancher. This guy, I mean, it's interesting. He's fast enough to scramble and to extend plays, but not quick enough and decisive enough as a runner to really hurt you as a dual threat. He ended up having 25 carries for 67 yards. His QBR, 9.4 out of 100. If you just randomly picked, 2 or 3 quarterbacks that were starting at the FBS level and any of them replaced him in that game, they probably beat Michigan State. It was horrific, his performance there, with multiple opportunities to steal a huge road win against a Big Ten team. He doesn't do it. Now, it's not just Cam Fancher, though. Army kicks ass on the ground once again. Cody Worley, their OC, he used under center, pistol looks, shotgun looks. All of them were in pursuit of finding ways to confuse the defense, put different defenders in conflict, and be able to get his bull of a quarterback, Bryson Daly, running downhill. This guy prefers to run over linebackers and defensive backs, and he did it in the opener. They ran for 375 yards, 6 touchdowns against Lehigh at nearly 7 yards per carry. That's 5 straight wins for Army with Daly at the quarterback dating back to last November. So this team that had lost confidence in recent years has regained it. And when I look at defensively what Army does, so Nate Woody, their DC, a former Broyles Award nominee, has more experience in his front 7. So if Cam Fancher is running around like a chicken with his head cut off, they're going to get to this kid, and they're going to force him to throw some questionable passes into their secondary. And their secondary is a bit green, but I think there's so many G5 teams that would scare me with, not FAU. So the bottom line is FAU and this coaching staff didn't face an offense like this all of last year in terms of what Army's bringing to the table with all their triple option elements, and they only have a week to prepare. Give me Army. I think they're the better team here. I think they have finally got a bit of momentum and confidence back after last year nearly getting to bowl eligibility. I think they finished 6-6, but didn't get an invite. They want this one. And FAU, as long as Cam Fancher is QB1, it's a fade job for me.
Yeah, I love it. You never have to convince me to bet against Cam Fancher.
All right, that's it for me and Ianello this week on the Group of Five Deep Dive under the Big Bets on Campus banner. A reminder to our audience that the big show, the flagship program from Colin and Sucky, will be airing this week both on YouTube over at the BBOC channel. Be sure to subscribe and to like. Also, you're going to find it in the exact same spot on your podcast feed. A reminder to go ahead and like. 5-star reviews are preferable. Go ahead and throw those our way. It really helps spread the word and get more people involved with everything we're doing here at the Action Network. For Mike Ianello, I'm Mike Calabrese. Thanks so much for listening, and hopefully another profitable Saturday on the way.
Go Diego, go.